Hey guys, Colby here with MCAD, and we have been preparing for the winter 2025 Fire Sprinkler CAD Basics Bootcamp, and we've been working on getting our software options updated for 2025. So I just want to go ahead and get into that. I've got a little presentation prepared here. So again, this is software options for fire sprinklers specifically we're talking about in 2025. And this content is, primarily aimed toward fire sprinkler contractors who are not necessarily familiar with CAD software. So we're going to kind of go into some definitions here to help understand the differences between these programs. So the first one we've got here is CAD. The program that we have upcoming is Fire Sprinkler CAD Basics Bootcamp. Well, what does that mean? Computer-aided drafting or computer-aided design is what CAD specifically means. And we'll be talking a lot, throwing that word CAD around. We'll also be throwing another term around, BIM. What does BIM refer to? Well, BIM is Building Information Modeling. Well, okay, so what does all that gobbledygook mean? Well, when we're talking about CAD, we're talking about we could be working with a 2D DWG AutoCAD file. It could be a 3D SKP SketchUp model. Could be a 3D RVT Revit model. But all of these things are still CAD. Now, the Revit model we'll be talking about is also BIM. BIM programs are also CAD programs, but CAD programs are not necessarily BIM programs, is what we're going to get into here. So when we refer to going forward CAD, we're kind of generalizing and referring to 2D DWG, or that's the format that AutoCAD created back in the day. These days it includes 3D as well, and quite frankly, AutoCAD can almost do as much as Revit. It's not that much different anymore. But as a generalization, when I say CAD, I'm kind of referring to a simpler 2D flatline DWG AutoCAD style modeling. And so BIM, what's some examples of those types of files? Well, like I said before, we could have a Revit model. That would be a BIM, Building Information Modeling. Another example of a BIM model we could have is plan.plan model from Chief Architect. That happens to be the BIM program that we use here for creating plans for houses and buildings. And then another program that's out there that's commonly used is HydroCAD for creating architectural plans, and they use a PLN model. And it is another BIM program that's out there. And then this last one, IFC, is kind of a generalized, it's an open file format, industry foundation classes. And many of the programs in the fire sprinkler world, basically, when it comes to 3D, you're going to be dealing with either Revit or IFC. I guess I should have went forward to the next slide because it says exactly that. So, when we're talking about fire sprinklers, we're talking about this software. We're talking about either using Revit to create a Revit model or some other CAD application like AutoSprink or AutoCAD even to create an IFC model that can be brought into Revit and used for clash detection and whatnot, which we're not going to get into that in this too much in this talk today. But okay, so again, CAD and BIM, those are the two kind of main things we want to remember that going forward here. And then also we're going to be talking about hydraulic calculation software. So software used to determine pipe sizing in a fire sprinkler system. And another thing we're going to talk about is a software extension. So that's a type of program that is meant to extend or add on to what another program is able to do. So, examples of hydraulic calculation software. There's many more in this, and we'll talk about a lot more up ahead. But just to give you an idea, there's Haas from HRS Systems. That's the first calc software I ever used 26 years ago, and they're still around. It's a great product. Dashboard Hydraulics from Sigma. That's what I used and recommend today. That's my favorite standalone calc software. And another one is HydroCAD from HydroTech. That's pretty popular these days. And so talking about software extensions, so a little bit just to give you an idea of what these are, things that extend what another program's able to do. So just to give you an example, there's a CAD program that is not a BIM program natively called Rhino, but you can get an extension for Rhino, and it's called Visual Arc, and that gives you BIM capabilities inside Rhino. And then you can get an extension for Revit. It's called Rhino inside Revit because people like the modeling tools that are inside of Rhino, and that brings it into Revit so that you have these really nice modeling tools that Revit doesn't have natively. And then this is probably of more interest to you guys, a software extension. There's SprinkCAD for Revit. And then the next one on our list here, Victaulic tools for AutoCAD or Revit. And then VCalc from Viking for Revit. That's an extension that you can get from Viking to do hydraulic calculations on Revit. All right, so a couple more things we want to talk about before we get into looking at actual software is perpetual licenses versus software as a service. Basically, this means either you own the software as long as you can keep it running, or software as a service, it's a subscription. And of course, as many of you know already, that more and more companies in all areas of software are pushing more and more for the software as a service option, and it's getting harder and harder to get a perpetual license. But I definitely always prefer the perpetual license if I can get it. So here's our main list of kind of the most popular software options out there that people are using specifically for fire sprinklers. And right off the bat, it just looks, I'm sure, like just kind of like a big wall of text and numbers and very hard to differentiate. So if I add that outline there, I think that kind of helps break this down a little bit. We have AutoSprink on the top, Revit at the bottom, and then all of these other programs grouped in the middle, along with AutoCAD, which is at the bottom of that middle list. Basically, all of these programs here in the middle are going to use AutoCAD style commands that we are going to be teaching in the boot camp. So everything you learn in the boot camp would work on this software here that's in the middle, that's circled in red. And AutoSprink doesn't work like anything else. It's only used in the fire sprinkler industry. And then Revit doesn't work anything like AutoCAD, but at some point here, I probably have a better slide that shows it. Basically, people who go to school for drafting, those types of things, they in colleges, predominantly, this isn't a hard and fast rule, but predominantly Autodesk, the creator of AutoCAD and also the owner of Revit, they have taken over the school systems in a way that people go to school, they learn those programs, either AutoCAD or Revit or both. And so that's kind of important because it creates a large pool of people who know how to use these programs as compared to like AutoSprink, because only people who are in the fire sprinkler industry know how to use that software. So it's something to consider. So I want to talk a little bit about AutoSprink. I think it's a great company. It's American made. Let me see if my button works. There we go. Zoomed in a little bit. AutoSprink, this is from their website. The top portion here says AutoSprink is proudly developed and supported right here in the USA. Our knowledgeable support staff is here to help. Give us a call, shoot us an email, or search our resources for help to common questions. And from what I can tell, this is really the case. I follow a lot these programs, on different places online, Reddit, Facebook, and that's the common consensus. This next comment I have is from Reddit, somebody who likes SprinkCAD or AutoSprink, and I think what they say is very common among people that use AutoSprink, from what I can tell. It says, I've worked in SprinkCAD, HydroCAD, and AutoSprink. In my opinion, AutoSprink is by far the best. It is a well-designed software developed by and in collaboration with sprinkler designers. Their support for the program is top-notch. Their training is fantastic. Then they have someone available twice a day to meet online for an hour to ask questions about the program at no additional cost. And that's really phenomenal. Like it really is. And it's great company. Cannot say anything negative, but I do have the unicorn back there just to remind you that basically you learn this software, you can use it in the sprinkler industry. It works like no other software that's out there used in any other industry, period. And it's still, it's a great software depending on what you're doing. It may be a great option. It's a fairly pricey option, but, depending on what you're doing, that might not matter. That's just the cost of doing business. Let's keep going here. On a Reddit post from a while back, let's see, looks like, I'm not sure if this is a current, I might have snipped this a few months back. It says 7 months ago, but I think it's more, I took this screenshot more than seven months ago. So I'm going to zoom in here. It says, I'm a fitter looking to get into design. What do I need to get into design? Do I just need NICET and training, or do I need a specific degree? And Cabo 169 says, I'd find out what software you're willing to learn. There's a few out there that use different platforms. Unless you can find a company willing to train you in design and on their software they use. AutoCAD for CAD-based add-ons for sprinkler design, Revit for Revit-based designs, AutoSprink, which is a standalone sprinkler-only design software. I'd take a CAD course or two, get familiar with how it operates. Would also take a Revit course or two. Let's see, there's a company named HydroTech. We'll be talking about them. They have design add-ons for AutoCAD and Revit platforms. And okay, so somebody responded to that guy's message on Reddit, and he said, can't sing the praises of AutoSprink enough. And so Cabo 169 replied to that, said, I'm a CAD guy. I love my AutoCAD and CAD add-ons. Used AutoSprink for 6 months several years ago and messed up more designs due to my AutoCAD background than I produced. And that's something that I've heard before. Learning CAD before AutoSprink, some guys have actually said it's a hindrance. I've learned CAD and Revit, and people said that about learning Revit as well. We teach, that you should learn multiple platforms, be ambidextrous, as it were. But like if you're learning Revit, or as you see even with this AutoSprink, I think you really need to learn the basics of AutoCAD as well, as we're trying to demonstrate here. But let's keep going. The paragraph continues on. AutoSprink is great if you're taught on that platform alone, but to try and figure it out yourself creates a steep learning curve, especially when you have over 20 years using CAD. Now, that is great that we talked about earlier, that they have, they're available to help you all the time, right? So that's definitely part of the things to consider. So Cabo169 continues, I do both engineering and design for installs. AutoSprink is overkill for engineering. Most engineering firms do not run AutoSprink. Most cannot justify the $15,000 price tag on one standalone seat for the Platinum version. The only plus I have encountered is the ability to shift your calculation area with minimal work. I don't like the backgrounds. I don't like importing PDF files to overlay the system. I don't like how dark and bold structural aspects show up on a printed set, or how certain aspects block out sprinkler info. I don't like that for every TBC, I should know this, through bolt connection use stock list, I'm guessing that's it, automatically lists nuts and washer for a through bolt connection. Completely idiotic data base setup for that. And then this guy responded, totally get that. It's super customizable, and some of that stuff is really in the details. Took me a while to get used to the drawing aspect, and the shit it snaps to sometimes still drives me crazy, where I go, how and what were you even snapping to? I will do drawing cleanup in AutoCAD before I import a lot of times. So we're going to be talking about how expensive these licenses are, and this guy likes AutoSprink, and even still, he has to have an AutoCAD license to clean up files sometimes before he brings them in to AutoSprink. So let's keep going. This is a totally new subreddit, it's called, on Reddit. Somebody said, need help with picking design software. They say, I have to pick software for our designers, and I am totally unqualified for this, but there's a dispute internally, and basically I have to make the decision. Half the team wants AutoSprink, and half the team wants HydroCAD. Which would you pick up, and why? And let's see, this person says, I've worked in SprinkCAD, HydroCAD, and AutoSprink. Oh, and this is, by the way, this is the one I read this comment when we were first talking about AutoSprink. This guy loves AutoSprink, and that's great. I want to say 100%, I believe that, there are absolutely scenarios, people who should be using this software. Are these options for everyone is the main focus of what we're talking about today. So just quickly, I've worked in SprinkCAD, HydroCAD, AutoSprink. In my opinion, AutoSprink is by far the best. It is a well-designed software developed by and in a collaboration with sprinkler designers. Their support for the program is top-notch. Their training is fantastic. And then they have someone available twice a day to meet online with, to ask questions. Again, so that is really good. Let's keep moving here. So I use AutoSprink. There's a bit of a learning curve, but once you get comfortable enough to start exploring all of its features, it quickly becomes very efficient. For example, if you have a hard time navigating the menus on a regular basis, there's a voice feature. You can configure it so you functionally talk to the program and it draws it. Another commenter said, I like AutoSprink for its 3D capabilities, and if set up properly, now this is a big thing, if set up properly, both can be a problem with AutoSprink and Revit. It takes a lot of time to set these programs up, and a lot of times people work at places where the company hasn't taken the time to set it up, and they're not getting the advantages from the programs if they're not set up. Anyway, so if set up properly, it can make everything very smooth from start to finish. I had trouble learning HydroCAD and found AutoSprink a little more user-friendly. Probably a personal opinion. Now, my guess is, like we've mentioned, it's designed for sprinkler designers and no one else. And so it probably has very efficient workflows for that. And nothing else is the problem. or not. That might not be a problem for you. Next commenter we have here says, I like AutoSprink for its 3D. Oh, wait, I think I read that one. Okay. Another consideration is collaboration with other disciplines. AutoSprink is a great standalone, but does not export well into Revit. However, it does have a Revit add-on, but that isn't as easy to use as the standalone. HydroCAD also integrates with Revit. Let's see. But the calculation software isn't as integrated, though the calcs are a lot easier to read and follow, in my opinion. And somebody replied to that, the standard version of AutoSprink does provide a way to import Revit models. It's a little roundabout, but it gets it done. 80% of my jobs are CAD-based, so I don't mind a little extra effort dealing with Revit models. Once I'm done with design, it's fairly easy to export a 3D model of my system for the head architect to integrate into the Revit model. Not ideal, but it works. And he's talking about exporting an IFC model. We were talking about Industry Foundation class earlier. And basically everything that isn't Revit uses that IFC. Okay, so another commenter here says, this is actually a response. Oh no, this is just the next comment down. I have the last one that I read on here. If you're doing 2D drawings for TIs, etc., or drawing warehouses, and you have experienced designers who know the program, HydroCAD is faster and can produce a better looking product and fabrication lists for your and fabrication lists that our supply house love. If you need 3D models for coordination and your designers are less experienced, AutoSprink is faster. The calculation program and listing is super fast and simple, even for people who only kind of know what they are doing. If you're doing design collaboration with other trades, receiving updated Revit models weekly, and expected to provide an intelligent BIM model that incorporates well with the other trades or can collaborate on Autodesk Construction Cloud, a Revit-based software is almost necessary these days. I have my team running HydroTech for Revit. I have designers who have used all other software and none of them want to go back once they get the learning curve. We run Autodesk AEC collection, which includes Revit, Navisworks, and AutoCAD at $3,000 per seat per year, and HydroTech suite for Revit, $1,700 per seat. Calculations are super fast. Auto listing is great. Drawings look great and can get all necessary info on the plans for install. Amazing 3D details, super easy. So, and everything, again, that you are going to learn today or in this course that we are going to be talking about, not today, will, work in these programs that are based on AutoCAD like HydroTech. So they'll be useful then if you decide to upgrade to something like that. Let's see, this commenter said, AutoSprink has more capabilities as far as 3D design. HydroCAD is great and easy to use, but you will need additional components for calcs and such. I used CAD for years, and my new company uses Sprink. I'm slowly loving it more. From what I've been told, it's cheaper of the two as well. And then this person replied, AutoSprink Basic was like $12K per seat last time they tried to sell it to me, and you still needed AutoCAD and Navis if you're doing BIM coordination. AutoCAD is $1,700 per seat, which it's now more like $2,100, and full HydroCAD suite is $3,000. I used SprinkCAD to start and adored it. Oh, this is another comment. And going to AutoSprink was a big learning curve, and I never fully got the hang of AutoSprink. So, this is the comment, the response to that one. this is the first one we've really had about SprinkCAD. And this guy says, when did you last use SprinkCAD? Now, SprinkCAD is Johnson Controls offering. He said, I was using SprinkCAD 3D 5 years ago, and I'm curious if things have changed. I was getting frustrated with a program that seemed to have stalled in development. After working with them for almost a year to solve some issues with the program, I finally got one of their tech support guys to admit that Johnson Controls wasn't working to advance the 3D software. He went on to say that all of their developers were in Russia and really hard to deal with. I don't know how much of that is true, but that's what I was told. I hung up for the phone call and immediately reached out to AutoSprink. Now, as an AutoSprink user, I have a direct line to the development team. Totally different experience. And, 100%, I would do the same, if I was in that situation. That seems ridiculous. Let's see what this response says. From what I have heard from Johnson Controls designers, they have abandoned SprinkCAD for HydroCAD and Revit software, at least in Northern California. They can't even get tech support from their own company. My best friend works... Oh, we don't need to read that. That's just about buying stuff and other ridiculousness at Johnson Controls. Let's get back now into the list, okay? So, again, all of that... Oops, I need to zoom back out. All of that detail from the Reddit post we were getting at is just to help understand... Some of these things take some difficulty learning. Some of them do advanced things. Some of them are very expensive. Some of them require AutoCAD. Some of them don't. We're going to be getting into the pluses and minuses. These ones in the middle in red are all based off of AutoCAD or are extensions for AutoCAD. SprinkCAD, even though it has a standalone, they also have one that's an AutoCAD extension. The standalone, before we just read that comment about what's going on with their crack Russian programming team, the 5,000 for a standalone software is kind of that kind of looks good next to AutoSprink at 8,000 to 12,000, and that's AutoSprink doesn't advertise their prices. That's just from reading Reddit posts and things like that. Doing Google searches, and I actually heard somebody say as little as 5,000 for the lowest tier recently, and then you've got an annual fee that again they don't advertise any of that to keep it going. But when you look at the next group, SprinkCAD stands out from all of those because you don't have to pay for an AutoCAD license every year, $2,000, where you do with all those other ones. You pay $5,000 once, but then it's only $900 a year to keep SprinkCAD going. So that's why SprinkCAD is kind of been fairly popular, despite the problems they're having with technical support and whatnot. Now, second one on our list here, Fire ACAD, which is now FireCAD. They got taken over by InspectPoint. InspectPoint's kind of out there killing it right now, and they adding a sprinkler design software to their service, their suite. That's pretty cool, just within the last year. And so Fire ACAD was kind of dead. It hadn't been updated in a few years, but they apparently updated it with the joint venture with InspectPoint. Anyway, so $1,890 to buy their software every year, and then that's going to have integrated hydraulic calculations and all of their additional whatever their cool sprinkler tools are that they've created in there to make your workflow easier, and $2,000 of AutoCAD every year, so you're looking about $4,000 a year to run that. Now OmniCAD sprinkler design for AutoCAD 2012, why would anybody buy that when it's for 2012? You say, well, because it's $5,000 and you own it, and you just have to keep buying AutoCAD every year. And when you buy the new version of AutoCAD, it comes with previous versions. You can downgrade. And so you would actually have the current version of AutoCAD and the version 2012 you need to run OmniCAD. Why having both is important is because why having a 2012 version is a problem. If an architect sends you software, building design that was done in 2025 AutoCAD, you're not going to be able to open it in 2012 AutoCAD. But you can open it in 2025 AutoCAD and do a save as the 2012 version, and that's what people who have OmniCAD do. They have both 2025 AutoCAD and 2012 AutoCAD running their OmniCAD, and when they get a new file, they just downgrade it so that they can open it in their software. And then, they paid that $5,000 once for OmniCAD, and they're just buying AutoCAD every year. You might be able to find a 2012 perpetual license out there somehow in ways I wouldn't recommend and others. But then HydroCAD, I think, is a very popular option these days. And now it's $1,980 plus AutoCAD, that's $4,000. That does not include hydraulic calculations and listing. They charge extra for that. I don't have that price on here, but I think it's in the $3,000 range, $3,000 plus, maybe. And then there's just AutoCAD and Revit. There's plenty of companies out there doing complete design on just AutoCAD or just Revit. If you get HydroCAD for Revit, that's $5,000 a year, and your software, 1980s was the $3,000 plus more. If you got your calc software and your listing software. But let's go on to the next page. We're gonna. I really was just trying to emphasize here, all of these programs here either are AutoCAD extensions or they are based off of AutoCAD, work the same way, so that everything we're learning in the Fire Sprinkler CAD Basics Bootcamp will apply to these. And here are, I guess, some Revit extensions. Some of these, like HydroCAD, SprinkCAD, have Revit extensions as well as AutoSprink. So, those are options to work alongside with Revit. And I really was supposed to go through all of these after I explained that to you. But this next thing I want to show you is you can also just get AutoCAD or Revit. Like I was saying, there's plenty of places that use just those. And there's actually some free add-ons that you can get for those for fire sprinklers. Victaulic tools for AutoCAD is totally free from Victaulic, and that's great sprinkler design tools and modeling tools in there for free. I used kind of one of the first early versions, Vic tools, way back in the day on, AutoCAD. Probably was 2002 or something like that. Anyway, they also have Victaulic tools for Revit. Now that one does cost. It's $200. And in addition, we have Viking has some new offerings. There's V-Design for Revit and VCalc for Revit. I think V-Design is actually available for either AutoCAD or Revit. But then VCalc is calc software that's available as an add-on to Revit or as a standalone. So you could use either AutoCAD, $2,000 a year, free Vic tools, and then free VCalc. And you can get quite a bit done with that. If you need something done in Revit, you can get your Revit subscription, Victaulic tools for Revit, $200, and then free VCalc from Viking, and you can do a lot, basically anything with it, with this software. Not a lot of people know this stuff is out here. These are really good offerings and as add-ons for AutoCAD. Now, some more popular software options that maybe you guys don't know about. I've got AutoCAD and Revit at the top just to kind of compare pricing and whatnot. We're talking about lower cost versions from there. So AutoCAD LT is, a lighter version of AutoCAD. It doesn't run extensions, and it's only $530 a year. When I started back in 1999 in the fire sprinkler industry, we were using AutoCAD LT 98, I'm pretty sure. And it'll do everything you need to do. It just won't run extensions, but it'll run Lisp routines, and we'll be talking about those in the boot camp this time around. Many of the functionality of these that you're looking for from these fire sprinkler programs that are extensions can be recreated with Lisp routines, which we can run even in these cheaper programs we're going to be talking about. So AutoCAD LT is a great option. Used that for a number of years. It's available also on Mac. Forgot to kind of talk about that. I don't know if anybody this year is going to be on Mac or Linux. We've had a couple people on Linux in the past and more people on Mac. But, the switch over from Windows 10 to 11 might have some more people considering those options. But our recommendation, actually, the reason the little gold star is on DraftSite Professional for Mac, we recommend DraftSite. If you're taking this course, they have a 30-day free trial. And another option, DraftSite is one of the first options that became available back in the day when I was first going out on my own. I was using DraftSite because it was available for free at that time. Dassault Systems that created DraftSite, they had purchased SolidWorks and they were trying to sell it to shops as an alternative to AutoCAD. And all of the shops said, well, what are we going to do with our legacy software? And so Dassault Systems made DraftSite and gave it away for free for a number of years to help people stop using AutoCAD. They basically started charging, I don't know, maybe 5 or 6 years ago. Was $99 the first year it came out, and then it went to $199. And the year it went to $299 is when I started figuring out all of these other options. It's what drove me to, I hate software as a service. It drives me nuts. I want perpetual licenses if I can. But anyway, let's keep going. So SprinkCAD Pro. Now this is really getting interesting because this is a higher level. Like DraftSite Professional is kind of not quite full blown AutoCAD. It's more like AutoCAD LT. But now we get to SprinkCAD Pro. This is basically like full on AutoCAD. And the cost is $1,596, and that's one time, and you own it. It's a perpetual license. Now, they also have software as a service, annual licenses available if you want to go that route, but I don't have that for Pro on here. We get to SprinkCAD Lite. You can get that for $700 for a perpetual license, and that's basically what AutoCAD LT used to cost, $700 to $900 every year. It'd come out when you could get a perpetual license for that. So I think that's kind of what they're targeting with that price. Now you can also, if you don't want a perpetual license, if you really like renting software instead, you can get SprinkCAD Lite for $314 a year. And one of the cool things is that with that SprinkCAD Pro, that's $1,596 and you own it, there is also a Vic Tools for SprinkCAD that you can get. So you can have, $1,600 investment and never have to buy software again. All right. Now we're getting into even more affordable software. So there's ZWCAD Flex Standard. They have a subscription. This is the same price as other stuff we've talked about, but it's just another option out there. If you don't like DraftSite, same cost as DraftSite, but annual $299, and I believe these guys have a monthly cost of like $30 a month. You can subscribe as well, something like that. Basically, all these smaller ones that we're going to be getting into, they're just kind of nitpicking between price. They're just kind of like trying to compete on all these different models of pricing. Like some have the monthly model, some have we'll keep going, you'll see. So there's HydroCAD Professional Perpetual License. That is $540 and you own it. That's pretty good deal. CMS IntelliCAD PE Plus. Now that's actually what I use, and this is basically equivalent to full-on AutoCAD, but it's $370 right now for a perpetual license. And NanoCAD 25 is another great option out there. Another AutoCAD. Basically, all of these are DWG editors. NanoCAD 25 is another one, $289 a year, and it's a great option. It's basically like full-blown AutoCAD as well. They have some other cool 3D modeling stuff too that's kind of trying to compete with SketchUp. It's not quite there yet from what I've seen, but it's still interesting. And NanoCAD 5, which is only compatible with 2013 DWG files, is totally free. And I recommend it to people who are on Windows. If you're wanting to get started with the free software, all of the files in this course are made compatible with 2013 DWG files, so you can run NanoCAD 5. There will be some limitations. It does still run Lisp routines, but it doesn't run as advanced Lisp routines as like CMS IntelliCAD. Now, I don't recommend you using QCAD unless you're on a Mac or Linux and you need to get started with something free. There's no Lisp routines in QCAD, which is really the biggest bummer. But also, you're going to run into problems with it's limited natively out of the box with what it can do for fonts, which is really kind of irritating for me and making a drawing look nice, but you can get a permit with it. Now Autodesk DWG True View is just a viewer, but it's totally free from Autodesk, and you can like do markups, but you can't edit the DWG. But one thing that you can do with that is if you had NanoCAD 5 and an architect sent you a new 2025 file, you could open it with DWG TrueView from Autodesk for totally free and then save that as a 2013 version so that you could open it with NanoCAD. So that's kind of a workaround you can get by with free software if you had to, till say you need to get a couple jobs out just till you're getting by. Now, this is the computer requirements for CMS IntelliCAD, what we recommend for people on Windows. It's basically not much. Most people, you're going to be on Windows 10 or 11, hopefully, anymore. They talk about 1 gigabyte RAM is all that's necessary for a 32-bit system and 2 gigs of RAM for 64-bit system. The more you have, the better it will be. All these files in the course are going to be super small and will run on kind of a weak machine. Really what you're going to find, a lot of, your laptop at home or whatever that you just have laying around might run these CAD programs. They don't have very high demands really for 2D DWG. That's really kind of one of the advantages. You don't have to have a powerful computer and you don't have to have expensive software. We're not going to get into it here, but basically, if you need a computer, go to Costco. Get the best one you can afford with a GPU. Now, I want to throw out this as an option. No, not many people have even heard of this in the US, but I just want to let you know that it's out there. This is based off of the CMS and IntelliCAD platform. It's a European option. It's 4M. They make the whole suite called Fine MEP. One of the products in Fine MEP they have available is Fine Fire. And this is like a SprinkCAD or a HydroCAD alternative with calcs built in. And, it's full-blown CMS and IntelliCAD, so you can full DWG editing and you can import Revit files and stuff as well. And this thing is 990 euros, last I checked a couple weeks ago, as of the making of this video. And that day that I checked as well, I did the calculation, and that worked out to $1,153.75. It may be different today based on fluctuations in the euro and the dollar and whatnot. But, they do have a free trial as well, I have to say. And, you can go download it off of their website. There's none of those other sprinkler specific brands have a free trial option. So, go check it out. I really think that this is all you need, and this is what we recommend for Windows people. Now, I have people ask me what I personally have. I have CMS and IntelliCAD PE Plus, which is $369.95 right now, but you really don't need it. The standard PE edition will run everything we're doing just fine. It still even imports Revit files at that price. It's kind of unbelievable for $279.95. It just doesn't have as many BIM tools, which you will never use for fire sprinklers anyway, so I wouldn't worry about it. The $279.95 option is great for anything you will need, and that's a perpetual license. Now, if you are just learning and don't have the money for that right now, you can also get started on Windows with NanoCAD 5 for free. So that's what we recommend for Windows. And if you are on Mac, we recommend DraftSite, or second probably after that would be BricsCAD. One of my guys on Mac had BricsCAD a year ago and it was having some issues, but there's been updates since then. There was an update that seemed to have solved all that, and so BricsCAD on Mac seems pretty solid too after that. And DraftSite, as well as AutoCAD LT is going to run great on Mac as well, but it's going to be almost twice as much as DraftSite. Now, QCAD will run on Mac, but we've talked about some limitations there. You won't be able to do any Lisp routines, and you're going to have problems with text, fonts. If you are on Linux, not sure if there's anybody here, but BricsCAD was another option for Mac. It's also a good option for Linux. You can buy BricsCAD Lite for $708 and own it, or $314 a year. QCAD again is an option. Now let's talk about hydraulic calculations. Now, I use a standalone hydraulic calc software. That's what I 26 years ago learned on Haas, which is a standalone calc software. There is some integration with AutoCAD that you can do in Haas. And anyway, let me go to the list here. The pricing. SprinkCAD from Johnson Controls, standalone calcs only, $2,500, $460 a year to keep it going. I personally don't like their reports very much, but a lot of people use it. It's popular. Johnson Controls, you go buy fittings and whatnot, and they've got the flyer on the counter there. So a lot of people, that's an easy option. That's just easy access, easy to know about. Maybe they have somebody at the parts place that can train them on it. Haas has been around for years. That's what I started on 26 years ago. It was a lot more expensive than this to get started back then. And it's why I didn't use Haas when I first went out on my own then. I might now if it was this price. In fact, we're probably going to get a license here at some point so we can be doing some video demonstrations and whatnot. But Haas from HRS Systems, the top tier, full-blown 13 calcs and everything, $1,800, and that gives you 2 users. That's really not bad. And then $900 a year to maintain that. So that's, $900 the first year per person and $450 per person a year after that. That's not bad. Haas House is another option that they have. It's a lower tier program. I believe the limitation is that it only does 4 head calcs maximum, I think. That might not be right though, but somehow it's limited less than, it doesn't, well, I know like it doesn't have like all the 13 system stuff, like, the grid peaking, those types of tools for sure. But I think it might also limit you on the number of, I should find out for sure about that, the number of sprinklers. But anyway, it's $900 up front or $450 a year after that. So if you're doing, 13Ds and 13Rs only, that's a good option. Haas is a solid software program. It's been around a long time. Now, when I first went out on my own, I got this next one, Hydronics, because it was very similar to Haas. I was able to just step right into it from using Haas. It was almost identical in how it worked, but it has a perpetual license. If you go to these guys' website, it's pretty outdated, but the software is good. It's kind of like, is this like an old Craigslist website kind of looking thing? It's like, how can I trust these people? But yes, it's good. Some of these are like that. It's just these software companies have been around a long time and not really had to compete that much, I guess, is what it is. So the next one on our list, Hydronics commercials, I will say 3.0. They also have Hydronics, I can't remember what it's called, residential or house, but it's the same price as commercial. So I'm not really sure why you would go that route. But it is perpetual, so you don't have to keep paying for it every year. But HydroCalc from Hydratech now. Earlier we talked about the HydraCAD and the AutoCAD. That's just for doing your drawings. If you want to do calcs with HydraCAD, you have to have the HydroCalc add-on. Now they do have a package where you get HydroCAD, HydroCalc, and whatever the listing software is called. That cheaper if you buy them all together. I don't have room for all of these, but I'm just trying to give you like as much as possible exposure to as many of these as, they all have a little bit different pricing structure to try and compete, that works better with some companies than others, depending on the situation. So, but HydroCalc is really popular. I see that out there a lot being used in the Northwest anyway, West Coast, Oregon, Washington, California. I would say I mostly see Haas, SprinkCAD, HydroCalc, and a little bit of Sigma out here, which isn't even on my list. It's on the next page. We'll get to Sigma. That's what I recommend. But another one that's popular, I'd say, I'm not trying to, if you look at Elite Software's website, they have not updated it for 20 years, okay? The software doesn't look like it's changed for 20 years. Kind of like Hydronics website. They have, the pricing option that they have and the fact that you can, get started downloading stuff from their website has made this popular in certain sectors. It seems like a lot of engineering firms have this Elite because they can just, they already have AutoCAD and then they just pick this up. I have noticed that there's a lot of guys, for whatever reason, in India that seem to be using Elite. I think it's because of the pricing structure. You could start out at the cheaper version. And basically what it does is it limits you on the number of nodes that you can use. If you need more, in this calc program, you describe one end of a pipe to another end of a pipe between two nodes. And so if you have a limitation on the number of nodes you have, that means you can't, you're going to get to a point, you might be fine with the lowest version to do, houses, apartments. But then when you get to a big grid system that has tons of nodes, that's when you're going to run out of nodes and have to upgrade to the next system up. Then on the bottom of the list, this new option from Viking, which is really amazing, quite frankly, VCalc. We've used it a little bit. We need to be using it more. It works great. I don't love their reports. Quite frankly, I don't like any of the reports from anybody on this page. I like the reports from Sigma, who I'm going to show you next on the next page. That's who we recommend. I think they have the best looking reports. And they don't advertise their price, but I'm going to tell you it's very competitive with the stuff that we looked at on the previous page. So don't be afraid to reach out and call them. Tell them that I told you to call. They're great people to talk with. And man, for a standalone hydraulic calc software that is not integrated, I think it'd be great if they brought in integration with AutoCAD, but they haven't so far. The tools that it has to list the system quickly are just fantastic. I love the way the reports look. I have the option. I'm working with multiple clients, so I really like, to be able to put the client's logo on their calc, that matches their calcs. It's just a nice feature, and their reports are the only report out there that doesn't look like it came off of a 1983 dot matrix printer for some reason. Not sure why that is. Other software that we recommend, this is getting long, but I'm just going to try and run through this quickly. We create all of our details for fire sprinklers in SketchUp. I know nobody else in the industry that advertises like we do does that, but you should try it. SketchUp has a free version of the web that you can start modeling with. You can model anything with it. The cheapest paid version of SketchUp that will allow you to export to DWG is what we do when we create these nice like riser details and stuff with SketchUp. We export it to DWG. There's one, the lowest tier paid one is around $150 a year. And then a SketchUp Pro, which will allow full extensions and everything, is I believe right now $450 a year. But get started with the free and you can see how fun and easy it is to use. If you like it, $150 a year, you can pay monthly too. I mean, it's like $15 a month, and then you can export your cool details that you draw into AutoCAD. Okay, next thing on our list, any DWG or any PDF to DWG converter from anydwg.com. Now, AI is changing the world of PDF to DWG conversion as we speak. There's a lot of interesting stuff out there that we have tried within the last month that is really promising and cool, but not quite there enough for us to recommend it to you. This is still what we've been recommending for a couple of years as the best thing that, for a reasonable price, that will convert PDFs that were not created with a CAD program, that were scanned. CMS and TeleCAD will convert your PDF, or AutoCAD will as well. Nowadays, you just bring in your PDF and explode it, and there it is. But it only works if that PDF was created in a CAD program. I'm having trouble remember because I'm on the spot here. It's because it's the difference between vector and whatever the other style is. Basically, if a drawing is scanned, you can't do it natively in AutoCAD or CMS and TeleCAD or any of these CAD softwares that do it. And any PDF to DWG converter, it doesn't always work either, but it works better than anything else up until this point that I've tried in that price range and is easy to use, I will say. Those caveats. There is more stuff that I think is going to be coming out soon, really, with AI. I just foresee it changing. That is one of the... This is a really tedious problem, actually, cleaning up old drawings and converting, and that's one of the best things that I'm looking forward to. I think there is potential for AI to help with that, and I think we all will be looking forward to that because they'll make things a lot easier, hopefully in the future here. All right, so we mentioned Autodesk Design Review earlier. They kind of changed this recently. You have to, or actually, okay, I didn't mention Design Review. I mentioned TrueView. Design Review used to be a separate program. Now you have to download TrueView in order to get Design Review. But what Design Review will give you, it's basically you can load PDFs in there and if you guys are familiar with Bluebeam, you're using Bluebeam or you want Bluebeam, but you can't afford it. This is like a free alternative that does some of the things that Bluebeam does, not all of them, but like you can scale drawings and you can measure, you can create custom stamps and do things that you can't do with just a regular PDF editor that you can do, are helpful with a drawing. And it was kind of dead for a little bit. AutoCAD bought that and they weren't really upgrading it, but now they've integrated it into the Autodesk DWG TrueView, and it seems like they're working on it again. So hopefully that's good news, because it always seemed like a promising program to me as a possible contender for an alternative to Bluebeam. We stopped recommending Adobe's free reader about 1.5 years ago for viewing PDF files. It got really bloated in one of the updates and just runs really slow, especially if you're running big architectural, 150 page sets. They were just running really slowly in Adobe Reader. And so we've found Foxit PDF Viewer is a great lightweight free viewer that works really well. And it even has some decent markup tools. That's basically what I do, red lines in for the guys when I'm sending back and forth PDFs. Now, Fill PDF Tools is just free software that's been around for a long time, kind of cheesy and old school looking, but it works. And you can it has all sorts of tools for assembling and disassembling PDFs if you're, creating multi-page, material submittals, putting together calc packets, all these types of things, pulling pages out, putting pages in. It just makes it really easy and it's free. Recommend that, Fill free PDF tools. And then for PDF editing, I'm kind of hesitant to recommend this now because they've changed the licensing, but this is what I am using, except I have a perpetual license. But for editing PDFs, instead of Adobe, I'm using Nitro PDF, and it used to cost to buy it for a license the same as an Adobe subscription for 1 year, and that is no more. But Nitro PDF Classic, now it's called, they changed the name of it. It's $270 for a 3-year license. And I wouldn't be surprised if you can't get another one once that 3 years is up. So I'm going to be looking for another alternative to replace that. It could be Foxit's paid version. I've been hearing good things about that, so we might have to give that a try. And again, Autodesk DWG TrueView, we mentioned that earlier. This is great because you can download it for free. You can open CAD files, look at them, browse through the pages, the model space, all these types of things. And you can save the DWG file as older editions. All right, so where are we at here? One other thing I want to bring up real quick. A friend of mine on Facebook has recommended. I have not actually used it, but I've heard him and others say this is a great option. At some point, we're going to have to talk about plotters. I have a plotter here, and we plot everything before we send it out. But some people don't have a plotter, and they end up spending a lot on plans, and this is kind of a good option. Pantera from Plan Express, $1.25 per page for large format and free shipping for $20 minimum orders. And I've heard lots of great things about them, so check it out. So all of this is to tell you, if you want to learn one of these DWG-based CAD editors that are based off of AutoCAD or AutoCAD LT, you will be learning the basic tools in our boot camp. So come check it out. We will have 8 weeks where we basically walk you through step by step how we teach our guys to do a project. And it's going to be Wednesday nights this go around, 5 p.m. Pacific. There's going to be a lecture by yours truly. And each Wednesday evening following the lecture, we will have a Q&A session from the students as long as people have questions. And in the past, we just basically practiced the 8 weeks, running a project as if it was a job, working on this single-story ranch home. And we have added a two-story home. So if you've gone through it once, you can go through it again with the two-story home to add, more challenge. And this time around as well, we also include a 13R beta project. So you're going to get floor plans and cross-section for this 3-unit apartment that we drew up. You're going to get one of our job order reports and a 13R checklist. And you just work through it just like one of these other projects, just as if you were one of our technicians. And if you want to sign up to be able to do one of these opportunities, get these project files to work with us, this is where you go. mcadproductions.mykajabi.com, the NFPA 13D Bootcamp. Now, we've changed the name to the Fire Sprinkler CAD Basics Bootcamp, but the URL, I don't want to change it yet because we have a lot of links out there with that. But it initially was based off of only a 13D project, and we are planning to, once the 13R gets out of beta, it's a small 3-unit 13R. We're going to add a larger 13R that's multi-story, just like we did with the 13D. And then we're going to start adding 13 projects. And, we're going to have like a 13 tenant improvement you can go through, and then or just a simple, some other 13 just simple project, so that we can get through it in the 8 weeks. We don't want to overcomplicate things when we're learning the new CAD tools, right? So if you're interested, come check out our landing page, and also check out our YouTube channel and subscribe and like the videos, please. It's hard to get a lot of feedback from guys in the fire sprinklers. Talk to them all the time and say, "Oh yeah, I really appreciate your content, but I don't really comment on videos." But it's okay, guys. You can comment. You can like us. You can hit the thumbs up. It helps a lot. It makes it push us out there. Makes our content get recognized. So we appreciate anything you can do like that. Just hitting the thumbs up helps tremendously. All right, guys. We look forward to seeing you at the next Fire Sprinkler CAD Basics Bootcamp. Check out the YouTube again at MCAD Productions, or our website is www.mcadproductions.com. Thanks a lot. This is Colby, and look forward to seeing you at the next boot camp.